Well, how are y'all today? I just want to let y'all know that we are recording this for future use. If you have any questions, you can put them in the group chat or you can ask them afterwards. And so today we have Cari Snider. She is with the 4-H Center in Brownwood, and so she's going to share with you putting the fun in 4-H. And so you can.
All right.
One last thing is that we have you need a check in, and I will put that link inside of the group chat for you to check in on. And that's about it. And take it away, Cari.
Okay, well, thanks for joining today. Like she said, I'm Cari Snider. I am the Extension Program Specialist here at the 4-H Center and the Program Coordinator. I just finished staff training about an hour ago, so bear with me. I'm going through everything, but most of these games we just recently played. So my plan for this is just to share as many games as possible that you guys could take and use in meetings, groups, maybe some county camps if you're doing some of those this summer locally, those sorts of things. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can do this. Let me click a couple of buttons. Okay. All right, so again, there's just who I am. We'll just start. So my plan is to share with you guys some energizers and icebreakers that you can use really throughout the year. A lot of them you can use constantly. I don't know how often your meetings, your groups may meet, but there's some of them you can use just as new people arrive and join your clubs. Riddles are totally fun to just use in some downtime as kids are arriving, little brain teasers, those sorts of things. And then as we're in the summer right now, noodles are a big deal. They're very cheap. So I'm going to share some of those games that we like to play out here. And then a few team building ideas. And then if you enjoy the whole processing and connecting the dots of why we do everything, I'll share a few techniques with those as well. So I started with Raccoon Circles. These are things you can use as icebreakers for sure, and then just some fun stuff. So I have wrapped around my finger. So just to get started, Raccoon Circles are 8 feet of just regular strap, like strapping. You can use like what you would use in a ratchet strap or anything like that. You can buy it on Amazon for pretty cheap and then cut it. Make sure you burn the edges so it doesn't unravel, but they're super cheap pieces of equipment you can use. There are all sorts of games. There's just a few here. Again, most of my activities that I'm going to share with you are going to come from people that have taught me. So I use a lot of Jim Kane, who is basically team building and activity expert. I have like 10 of his books that just are lined out in games and activities for all different occasions. So most of these are going to come out of there. I can share some links to that towards the end. And then Michelle Cummings owns a company called Training Wheels. And so a lot of these games come from her as well. I've just seen them at conferences and things like that. So if you have questions, I can share links and those sorts of things for those people. But wrapped around my finger is just a quick activity that you can play with the kids in small groups. So if you have a really large group, you would want to ask them to split up into smaller groups and give each group a raccoon circle or a piece of the strapping. And what you do in this one is you just have one person hold it, and they literally wrap it around their finger, kind of like a fidget activity. And every time they wrap it around their finger, they tell something about them. So I'm in the 5th grade, I go to wherever school, what they like to do, those sorts of things. And it just is a quick activity that while they're talking, it allows for them to fidget a little bit and makes them feel a little bit more comfortable while introducing themselves and telling about them. Twice around the block is a fun activity where you tie a knot in the raccoon circle. So it makes an actual circle at that point. And one person holds the knot between their hands. And then another fidgeting technique is they would pass the knot around the circle 2 times, so twice. And as they pass it around, kind of the same thing as wrapped around my finger, they're telling about who they are. So if you have kids that are a little more nervous, a little more shy, they can pass it really fast and tell a little bit less of themselves. Or if you have kids who are great with public speaking and not afraid of anyone, they might pass it really slow and tell their whole life story. That one kind of goes into Lifeline. So it's another one. All of these again are with Raccoon Circles. So the piece of strapping, you lay it straight across on the floor in a line, and you have the kids walk like heel toe down it, and you can do down and back if you want to. And same thing with each step, they tell a story of their lifeline. And then towards the end, if they run out of things, maybe they can tell what they want to do in their future. So kind of like fortune telling where they want to go to school, what they want to be, what they want to do when they grow up, those sorts of things. I'm going to skip the racing one because I have a video of it in just a second. And same thing with the shapes down there a little bit lower. So the inside out, outside in game is one that maybe a few more older kids would get more out of it than just your younger, maybe 3rd and 4th graders. So again, you tie a knot into the raccoon circle and you lay it on the ground, and you have all of the kids, 8 to 10 kids, stand around one circle. So you might have to have a few groups of them. And you basically tell them that they can't use their hands or arms, and they have to figure out how to get everyone inside of the raccoon circle. And then out the other way. So that's, I guess that would be outside in. And then after they're inside, you would have them get out the same way. So you can talk them through that, or just make them figure it out. It's kind of another puzzle, team building type thing. They have to work together to accomplish both of those. So you can do them simultaneously or separately. And then over here, I'm going to skip the shapes one, like I said. Over here is a fun, just super energetic game. You have small groups inside of a raccoon circle laying on the ground with a knot tied in it. And then you yell out different things. So like the first one that comes to my mind right now is the person with the biggest book collection. So whoever in the circle or in each raccoon circle has the most books maybe in their personal library, everyone in the circle would yell, "See ya," and that person would get out of the circle, and then they have to go find a new circle. So at that point, after they've kicked somebody out, they're trying to recruit more people. So everyone in the circles are yelling, "Over here, over here, over here," trying to get more people in their circle. There's really no winners or losers in that one, but it kind of helps you get to know people. So like maybe the tallest person, the person wearing the biggest shoes or whatever, just different things like that would be how you get the kids to talk about it, get to know each other. Then it's kind of sad they kick them out, but they get to go find a new home and do it all over again. So raccoon circles are a big deal. We've gotten really into the raccoon circles around here, so our staff really enjoys playing them. So I'm going to go to the next one. And so the circle shapes, so you start having all the kids holding the circle, and then you give them shapes. So a good first one is a triangle. So you have them show a triangle, and then you kind of judge and see who has the best triangle. You can go into circles, you can do stars. The second one on the screen is supposed to be the Eiffel Tower. So you can give big fancy ones. We've done cats. The other day we did the Sydney Opera House. So you might need older kids that really understand and know what that is. But there's lots of different shapes you can come up with, and you can even have them get creative and maybe even judge who has the craziest idea, and then have them create it within their raccoon circle. So just a fun activity for all the kids to get involved in and just see creativity. And then the Grand Prix racing is just an activity for fun. It's totally fun, but also has team building incorporated in it. So as you can see, this is a video, and I'll show it in just a second, but everyone is holding on to the circle. We have a couple of girls on one side in the purple and the orange shirt just supporting it, and that's okay as long as they're touching it. But you basically give out commands in direction, so right or left, and then they pass the knot again around in the circle. So it starts between someone's hands and they have to pass it. So I think in this video I did right, left, right. So they have to pass the knot all the way around the circle to the right till it gets back to the driver's hands, and then start to the left and then back to the right once it gets back. And then it's just a fun activity. Again, teamwork. I can give some pretty crazy commands and staff love it. The kids really enjoy this one because it's just fun. They can be loud and have fun. But I'll let this video show you what they actually do. Okay, so that is the racing game, and you can throw other things in it as well. I will occasionally throw in a pit stop, and what I make them do on the pit stop is they all have to hold on to the circle, to the raccoon circle, and then the entire group runs in a circle around till they get back to their original spot, and it just adds another element for them to do. Most of these games are open for interpretation. So if you wanted to do something crazy or add something totally crazy into it, it's totally available to do that. You just make it up and tell them that it's part of the rules now. That's what I do. So those are Raccoon Circles. And then, then I came up with, or threw in a bunch of low or no prop icebreakers. And so all of these, I've kind of written out a little bit more instruction for it. So just one word is a problem-solving game, kind of a riddle in a way, but it's just how you present it. So on all of these, I think I'll give you a scenario of how I share it. And then you can, again, interpret it however you want to share with your kids. So I have pieces of cardboard with all of the letters listed there. And I lay them out on the ground in a random order. And I usually tell the kids, I say, I use a scenario of when I was backpacking through a random place. So in this instance, I'll say Alaska. I went to a convenience store to get gas and some water, and a homeless person gave me these cardboard letters and said that it spells just one word, but he couldn't figure it out, and neither can I. And then I tell the kids that they can manipulate, they can move the letters, whatever they need to do, but try to figure out what it spells. And so obviously it spells just one word, but they have no idea. A lot of common words they'll come up with is donut is involved. They'll come up with all sorts of words. They always think the J is irrelevant because no word has a J with all the other letters. So you get kids being creative and explaining why they think letters don't belong. So it's quite comical in some instances. On this one, I would never let it go too far because then you'll get kids discouraged because they can't figure out what it is. So I'll occasionally tell them, well, the J is the very first letter. And that kind of helps figure it out. Depending on the group, which you're going to know your kids a lot better than I do. So when I did this the other day with my staff, I only gave the scenario and then I didn't talk anymore. So I told them that it was just one word one time. And then after about half of them had it figured out, then I gave the scenario again and gave a little more emphasis on the just one word part. And then I ended up still having to tell them that J was the first letter and helping them, letting the other staff share some ideas on where letters went for them to figure it out. So it totally just depends on the group of people, maybe on the amount of sleep they had the night before, how late we went during staff training was probably a factor in that. But again, you'll know your kids and know what they need to help succeed. The next game is a newer camp favorite. I just call it Handshake Greetings because it's a great way to just have some fun. So the scenario I use in this is that contrary to popular belief, I don't live at 4-H camp all year long. And when all the kids leave in July and August, I like to go travel. Whether that's true or not, who knows? So I always say that I obviously start in Texas, and in Texas, especially at 4-H camp, we greet everybody with a howdy and a good solid handshake. So they go around the circle and they just say howdy and shake everybody's hands. This is really good if they're trying to get to know each other. They can even say each other's name, trying to learn each other's name a little bit better. And then the next one I usually say, Texas is so hot in the summer, I like to start in Alaska. So when I got to Alaska, I got off the plane and went to greet somebody, and I walked up to them to shake their hand and say howdy. And they looked at me like I was a crazy person. So I had to figure out that Alaskans don't greet each other the way Texans do. And so this is the video of how we think Alaskan people greet each other. So as you can see, they're flapping each other's forearm in the way like we would say a salmon would flop around, since Alaska is known for their salmon. So they're just saying hello. And that's just a funny greeting to greet each other. Another one we use commonly is after we left Alaska, I went to Wisconsin, and I always start over. So I got off the plane and I thought, well, maybe they greet each other like Texans do. So I walked over and went to shake somebody's hand and say howdy. And again, they were not impressed. And I thought, well, maybe they like to greet each other like people do in Alaska. So I went to flop somebody's forearm and they were jumped back. So I always ask what Wisconsin is famous for. And most of the time kids say dairy or cheese. And then I say, well, where does that come from? And they say cows. And so at camp, we do the milk song. So we just kind of roll right into it. And this is how we think Wisconsin greet each other. And here's the second video. So that's just another fun one. The kids will have a heyday with it. It's usually that one gets pretty loud. We tell them they can moo if they want to, if that's how they want to greet. It's a good fun one. And then I talk about how everybody wants to go to New York and go to Times Square. So again, I go through everything. I got off the plane, went to shake somebody's hand. They didn't appreciate it. Alaskan, the salmon one, tried to do it like they do in Wisconsin. But what I figured out is that everyone in New York carries a briefcase around, and it's difficult for them to shake hands with their hands full. So what they have to do is they have to stick their briefcase down, and then as you can see, these two guys in the video are shaking each other's ankles. So I'll let you see how that one works. You got to make sure you pick your briefcase up when you walk away. So that's just a fun one. I usually implement safety procedures like don't yank somebody's foot, be gentle. You don't actually have to shake them and make them fall. It's just for fun. And then the final one I'm going to share today, there are tons. You can come up with so many. We have a lot of random ones that our staff just come up with pretty quick off their feet, but is Ohio. Again, you run through the whole scenario when you get off the plane. But Ohio has hi in its name. And so this is how we think Ohio people greet each other. So that's just another fun one. It gets really loud. But again, just a quick icebreaker to have some fun and get the kids going. Another one is called walk and talk. So very similar to the twice around the block or the wrapped around my finger. But this one you do it in pairs or trios, but I wouldn't go much bigger than that. So what you do is you give them boundaries. So for us, I usually say walk around the tennis courts. If you have, like if you're meeting at a show barn or a gym or something like that, just tell them to walk around a larger area. That way there's plenty of space. I usually tell them to do it 2 times. And what they do is they're trying to come up with 3 commonalities that they have with each other. And I usually tell them, you know, go deeper than my favorite color is blue, I like pizza, and I'm in 4-H, right? So you're trying to get a little bit deeper. So we say 3 levels. So obviously most people like pizza. So that's level 1. But if you go deeper, the example is, well, we both like pepperoni and pineapple on our pizza. So if you get 2 people that are like that, we all know that's a big controversy for some people. But level 3 would be like, I like pepperoni, pineapple, deep dish from Pizza Hut or something like that. So it's very specific in the end. So you want them to find commonalities that are deeper than level 1 or level 2 if possible. So a few of my staff, we did this on day 1 2 weeks ago. Some of them were, we like to play tennis. I have 2 collegiate athletes, so obviously they're collegiate athletes, but their backgrounds are completely different, but they still found things. So a few of them are like, we both have step brothers. We both came from the Houston area. So they're deeper, but they're still making connections. Some of them went even way deeper than that, but just another way to get them to get to know somebody in a small group. So it kind of helps with that. And then obviously you can do it. What I like to do is when you're trying to get the group to know each other, you come back and you report. So the group, the partnerships would then share to the group what they found their commonalities were. So again, it helps with public speaking, connect some dots, and then helps them to figure out and come up with new skills and things that'll benefit them even throughout their 4-H year and beyond. So another fun one is called Winks, Blinks, and Belly Laughs. This one is just way funny. There's hardly any frowns in the room unless they just really don't like to have fun. Everyone is involved. It doesn't matter what's going on. And this is a game you like to play when your group sizes don't matter. So what we do is the first round is obviously winks. And you tell the kids, you say, or the group, parents, anybody can play this. I'm going to reference all of this to kids, but anybody can play these games. You say, I need everybody to secretly pick a number between 1 and 4. So 1 through 4, pick a number. Don't share it with anybody. And then you tell them you're going to go around the group room and you're going to find your group of people by winking at each other. So if you picked 4, you have to wink at somebody 4 times. And then until you find all of the 4s. And then all the 3s need to be together, all the 2s need to be together, and all the 1s need to be together. So eventually you'll have 4 groups of random sizes, but they all connected because that was the number they picked. So you do the same thing with blinks and then belly laughs, kind of like Santa laughs, or they can make up a laugh, whatever they want to do. But those are just fun ones just to have a good time. It works on some nonverbal communication as well as laughing communication. But you have to be very clear and pay attention. Otherwise, you may not understand or get what the other person is saying. Mingle, again, is very similar to Winks, Blinks, and Belly Laughs. So it's a fun way to find commonalities. So this is a video, but you can see all my staff have little pointer fingers on their forehead, and you'll see them kind of wiggling around. And what they do is they walk around the room or the area saying mingle, 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 mingle. It's just a word that sounds funny. And then you yell out a commonality. So the day we did this, I said group by color shorts. You can do by hair color. You can do by eye color. You can do lots of different things. It's just fun. And then it's another way for the kids to find commonalities. If this is day 1, they've met or something like that, you might give between groups and telling them to go mingle again, give them a chance to everybody introduce themselves real quickly, just have a quick minute to get to know each other. So I'll play this video so you can hear and listen to what they're doing. So again, just funny. Their words they're saying may not even make any sense by the time they get done saying mingle a whole bunch of times. But again, it's just a fun little activity. The next one is Kerfuffle. It's a fancy name for 52 card pickup. That all the cards, all 52 cards, you can include jokers. Any card that comes in the box of cards can have a command on it. So some of them are like play rock, paper, scissors with 3 people and win at least 2 times. One that we have is get 5 pairs of shoes and make a shoe tower. You have one that is, I think yesterday we did this and one of the cards said moo as loudly as you can until somebody tells you to stop. So there's just a bunch of random acts that the kids have to do, and then they come give them to you. If you're killing a lot of time and they go through it really quickly, I always say that we're going to play a different game and then act like I'm shuffling the cards a little bit. I'm telling you all my secrets, but I act like I'm shuffling the cards a little bit and then just throw them out of my hands again and say, oops, we have to do it again. So they have to do it again. But the second time, I usually tell them to do, if you pick up a card that you've already done, pick up a different one. So just another way to burn a little bit of downtime if you're waiting on a speaker to get set up, or if you're waiting on some kids to show up that are running late, something like that. Maybe you're having a meal at this meeting and it's just not ready. That's just a quick one you can do in between little downtime. Nemo is another good fun one that we love at camp. It is a great one to teach kids how to properly shake hands. I love this game. I don't do much handshaking techniques, but this would for sure be the one that I taught it with. So you have the kids get in a circle and you tell them to start with, you only start with a Nemo. So I tell them that I'm going to tap one person on the shoulder while all of your eyes are closed, so nobody knows who it is. So one tap on the shoulder means that you're Nemo. You don't tell anybody that you're Nemo until they start shaking hands, and then Nemo denies that they are Nemo 3 times. On the 4th time, they say, yes, I'm Nemo, and then everyone has to be paying attention because you want to get in line behind Nemo. And technically, if you are the last person in line, you are out. So we'll watch this video so you can see that. So that's how you play Nemo. So obviously the girl in the orange shirt was Nemo. The boy in the blue shirt figured it out, and they are now all lined up. And the tall guy in the purple would technically be out. And you heard them say, if you're Bruce, I'm going to be so sad. Bruce is a player I like to add in later just to add another layer to the game. So when you're picking Nemo, Nemo is 1 tap, and then you can tap another kiddo with twice to be Bruce. And so Bruce doesn't reveal who they are until they are lined up. Once they're lined up, you say, Bruce, reveal yourself, and they raise their hand or step out, and then everybody behind Bruce would be out. So you would pretty much go until you have 2 or 3 players left, and this is just a fun game. You can just play. Again, handshakes are a very good thing to teach our kids. So that's a fun one to use just to make that activity a little bit better and more fun. Wah is a fun game we have that we like to play. It's very similar to Ninja. It's a 3-beat process. So you want the kids to stay on beat. And obviously I can't spell. So you start in a circle. And you do get people out in this one. So if this is an activity you're playing, we like to have something else set up for the kids to go to. So it may be that you just start another circle of wah, or maybe you're playing a rock, paper, scissors game or something like that to get back in. So I'm going to let you watch the video, and then I'll show or explain a little bit more about what's happening. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so as you can see, the kid that has his hand straight in the air is the one that caught the wall, and now he has the wall. So the two people beside him, basically, the only way to explain it is you cut the wall in half. You don't actually touch that person, you just make the motion and the noise. You have to do that at the same time. So if the girl in the orange shirt and the girl in the black shirt had done it at opposite times, whoever was off beat would be out. Okay. And if the boy that is catching the wall and has the wall, if he didn't catch it on beat, then he would be out. So then he passes it across a circle or somebody else, and you can just play that so you get down to 3 players or so. And then again, it's just a good fun game similar to Ninja to have fun. So next I have 4 riddles that are pretty easy to play with kids, again in downtime, just to burn some time, let the kids think a little bit. So black magic is an activity that 2 people have to know how to play to start with. So we call it a mind reading trick. So like I said, 2 people have to know what it is. One of you would be the person reading the mind, and the other one would stay with the group of kids. So you send the mind reader out of the room, you have the kids pick an object, and then you bring the mind reader back into the room, and you go around and you point at objects and you say, is it the door? Is it the doorknob? Is it the window? And they're saying no to everything. And then right before you say the object, you would say, is it the black computer screen? And they would say no. And then if the object is a pen, you would say, is it the pen? And they would say yes. So you would say something that is black in color first, and then the next object right afterwards would be what the group picked. I hope that makes sense, because as I said it didn't. But again, if you have questions about any of this, throw it in the chat. Macy will interrupt me. If not, we can ask them at the end. I think there'll be plenty of time. Green glass door is another riddle. You can only take certain things through the green glass door to go on vacation. So you can take anything with double letters. So green has double letters, glass has double letters, and door has double letters. So you can take pizza, you can take spaghetti. One of the ones the staff used this morning was you can take an Aggie, but you can't take a Raider. So just anything like that. You don't have to say what you can and can't take, but sometimes it helps figure it out. So a lot of times I'll say, I can take pizza, but I can't take the box. Or I can take, my camp nickname is the Hammer, so I can take the hammer, but I can't take Cari. So just little things like that, and then you hope that the kids catch on to it. Again, I have staff that don't ever catch on to that one, so sometimes you have to be a little bit more intentional with how you help them figure it out. Another riddle is how many elephants? So again, this one might be a little bit advanced, but your high school kids could probably figure this out pretty easily. So I'll just give an example of it. So I say there's 6 elephants on the ball field, 8 elephants playing basketball, 3 elephants eating lunch. And then you ask the question, how many elephants are in the office? So the answer to that would be 7. But it's the answer to the riddle is how many words are in the last question. So if you just said how many elephants, the answer would be 3. Again, I hope that one makes sense. There's really, I don't know how else to explain it, but I can try if it doesn't. And then the final riddle we have is Johnny Whoop. And so you basically hold a hand out in front of you with the palm facing you, I think is the easiest way to do it. and you take your pointer finger of the opposite hand and you start on the pinky and you just touch the tops of all of your fingers till you get to the pointer finger, and then you slide it down through your thumb and then start over again. So it would sound like this. I guess, let me turn my video back on. Let me figure out how to do that. I don't remember how to do that. Oh, right here. Okay. So you would take your hand like this and you would say, Johnny, 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 whoop, Johnny, whoop, Johnny, 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 Johnny. And then the key to the riddle is folding your hands at the end and then just putting them back in your lap. So a lot of kids will get this part right, but then they'll just do this, and so it would technically be wrong. So it would be a little, that one again, you can do a lot of different things, but you know, sometimes it takes the kids a little bit longer to figure that out. So those are the 4 riddles I wanted to share with you. Then I have noodle games. So we have the noodle name pass is what I call it. So you get your kids in a circle. This is another good one. After they figured out everybody's names, maybe just figured it out, trying to figure it out. So on Monday night for my staff, we gave them all of their nicknames for the summer. So this is Tuesday morning. So they were practicing that. So this kid, his camp name is Gator. He is in the middle of the circle with the noodle. Everyone around him has their camp name, and he points at somebody and he says to the left. And they have to, as quickly as possible, say the person's name to their left. You do the same thing if he says to the right. After they have it figured out a little bit, you might have to have the kids jumble up, get a new spot, find somebody new to stand by. But if they hesitate or say the wrong name, then they become the person in the middle. So as you get going, if you want to make it a little more complicated, you can have them say 2 to the left, 2 to the right, those sorts of things. Make it a little more difficult on them, make them have to think. He actually, Gator in the middle, he told them 12 to the left. And so it ended up being basically 3 people to the right, but they had to count around to make sure. So it was kind of funny, just having fun and interpreting the game in different ways. The next one is called Flipin Burgers. So as you can see on the screen, they have a small cut of a noodle on the top of their hand. And then they have their noodle beside them. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to flip everyone else's burger off of their hand. So they're swatting at it, trying to knock it off while also keeping theirs on their hand. So if at any point the burger falls, they're out, and you can start over later. Obviously, you need to make sure safety specifics would be don't hit people in the face, watch where you're swinging everything, don't hit anyone, those sorts of things. Just have them be conscious of those things. The circle drop noodle, I couldn't think of a better name to give it because I don't know that it has a different name. But everyone would have a noodle in a circle and they're holding it in front of them. You would count 1, 2, 3, and they would leave their noodle in their spot and go to the right or to the left, whatever way you designate. And the goal would be to not have any noodles drop. So moving quick enough, but also communicating, trying to keep all the noodles standing upright while moving around. And then you have the noodle trust run. So maybe y'all have been meeting for forever. You don't have many new people. Or this is later in the year when y'all have, done contests and workshops and all sorts of things together. So everybody stands with their noodles out in front of them. Then you have a runner run through, and the goal is for him or her not to be touched by a noodle. So here is an example. So you can do as many as you want to at a time, or you can do one at a time, whatever you want to do. On this one, you wouldn't necessarily have to cut the noodles, but all of mine are cut in half. And so you can do whatever works easiest for you for this activity. Obviously, I already had them cut, so that's what we did. The Noodle Walk is actually a game I remember playing when I was a camper here at 4-H camp. So what you do is if you have a big group, you just split them up. I can go over some splitting up techniques if you would like. I think they're all out there, so you may not actually need me to tell you, but I will if it's necessary. So you split them into groups of 8 or 10 is probably the best. And everybody but the person in the very front would need a noodle. So they get in a straight line, and then what they do is they put a noodle in like their belly, and it connects to the person in front of them's back, and they all have to walk together in a straight line to another person or to another point without touching the noodle with their hand, and you don't want the noodle to be bent. So I would use the half noodle, and then you just want them to just sit it there and then communicate enough to where they can walk without dropping the noodle. So it's a fun one. I remember playing it. We didn't get to play it during staff training. We went through a lot of other activities, but I wanted to share that one with you just because there's some team building and work in there that it would be necessary to do. And then matchbook puzzles, the typical games where you have like 8 matches out making boxes, and you move 3 to make a certain number of more boxes or whatever. So you can do that with noodles. It's just at a bigger scale. I've done that one before. It's just fun. You can find puzzles like that on the internet. You can just Google it, and it'll give you layouts and stuff to do. And again, another little puzzle brain teaser for the kids to be thinking. So I have some teachable moments, some team building type things. So we'll start with the 3 chairs. So you divide the kids into 3 separate groups, preferably even, but not mandatory. And then you secretly give each group a different task. So in this instance, one group their task would be to put all the chairs in a corner. Another group would be to put all the chairs in a circle. And the third one would be put all the chairs on their side. So I did this with staff the other day. They all, we had to go over that we're friends and you don't have to pull chairs out from under people. So that might be something you think of in doing this, go over some safety things. But some of the kids got very territorial, and they were laying across chairs, trying to keep them in a circle or keep them in their corner, when the end task is just to work all together, put all the chairs in a corner in a circle while laying on their side. So again, just a fun one. The kids will get into it. If you have a really competitive group, make sure you go over quite a few safety specifics and tell them not to hurt each other, all of that fun stuff. If you're some people meet in churches or in schools or whatever, make sure you tell them not to scratch the floor, those sorts of things. But it's a fun activity that they can do that has some meaning. The next one is magic carpet. So this is not your typical magic carpet where they have to flip the tarp without stepping off of it or anything like that. So the scenario I give is you get them all on the sheet in this sense, and they have to pick a spot and they stay in that spot. And then I ask for a volunteer. So in this instance, my volunteer is now a magician. So I explain it with everybody seeing a magician pull a tablecloth out from a bunch of fine china, and none of it moves, none of it breaks, anything like that. So her team is now the fine china and she is the magician, and they have to figure out how to get the sheet out from under all of them without moving or jumping or anything like that. I just noticed that one of my staff is cheating. All of their feet, their whole foot should be on the tarp or the sheet in this instance. So the key to this one is that they all jump at the same time, and then the magician just pulls the tarp out. Some variation. So I usually tell them they have 3 chances to accomplish that. If they accomplish it before the third one, I give them another task of all of them they can't see, so they have to close their eyes. That's what's happening in the second picture. All of their eyes are closed. I've done it where nobody can talk, so they have to come up with other ways of communicating, when to jump, and those sorts of things. Matching cards. So this is just, I literally have index cards with different characteristics of a team, like communication, helpfulness, integrity, responsibility, teamwork, leadership, those sorts of things. You lay them out on a table, and then it's a match game. So split them into a couple of teams. They go down, they have to match them all. And then after they have them all matched, then they talk it out. So everyone in the team picks a characteristic and explains why they think it's important to have that on a team. And then as a team, they narrow it down to 3 or 5, and then they share it with the group why they chose those 3 or 5 characteristics. So it's a fun activity, but there's lots of levels to it, so it could take a little bit longer. And it has lots of levels of getting them to talk about what they think. And it may even be their personal characteristics that they could bring to the team. This is blind trust drive. So you're in partners again. You can blindfold, or you can have the kids just trust them that they're going to keep their eyes closed. So their partner, they are the vehicle if their eyes are closed, and then their partner is the driver. So they are driving them around a room. You can add obstacles, moving objects. One of the moving objects I use is just my personal self, and I just walk around, and they have to talk to each other and keep them from running into each other. You can mute the driver so they aren't saying right, left, stop, go, those sorts of things. And they're having to use taps on the car's shoulders. I'm going a little bit quick because I'm realizing that we're running out of time, but I would rather you have as much as possible. So Bobsleds is another activity. You do 4-person teams, and you have 3 commands. One command is switch, and that's where they're in a straight line, walking around in this line. So when you yell switch, the 2nd and the 4th person switch places. If you say change, the leader goes to the back. And if you say rotate, everyone turns around and goes the opposite direction. So as they get the hang of it, you can give combinations like switch, change, rotate, whatever. You can just make it a little bit more complicated. And then word circles are index cards with variations of words. So like, I can't even think of the ones we use, but like they all connect, kind of like Chain Reaction, the game show. That's what I think of. I love game shows. So just lots of those that they all connect back. So the kids have to get in the circle with all their words connecting, communication, teamwork, you're finding out who's creative, and those sorts of things. The final thing I want to go over is processing activities. So after you've done some of those team building things, one of my favorite ones to do is have them get back in a circle. And you just say, we're going to go left or right. And the whole circle just shuffles in that direction until somebody decides they want to speak up, and they say stop. And they can say, I really appreciated how you heard me and you listened to my ideas for this activity. So then just getting to voice how they felt during the activity. And then they would pick a direction, and you just do that 4 or 5 people or however long you want to. A virtual slideshow is a fun one. You get a dog training clicker, and you pretend it's the clicker to this imagination projector screen, and they can say, click, I really appreciated what you guys did for me when I couldn't figure out this, and I really like the teamwork and the whatever. And it just gives them time to speak, but use their imagination as well. A question ball is just a beach ball with a bunch of questions on it that you might want to ask. A sci-fi tube is a really cool thing you can buy on Amazon or at Target, and it just connects a circle. So unifying a team, if you all stand in a circle and hold hands, and you and another person are holding the ends of the sci-fi tube, it'll make noise. If one link in the circle breaks, then it'll stop making the noise. So it just creates a circuit, and it's really cool to use that as a visual of what a team really needs. And then my final thing, my final tidbit is postcards, which I just put a whole bunch of clip art on index cards or postcards from Word. So I have things like the sun, a variety of emojis, the beach, friends, a dog, all sorts of things. So it's one thing that we used today to end staff training. I told them all to get a postcard, and then we talked about what it meant to them. Some of it was how they felt during staff training, how excited they are for camp. It related to something growing up, something during the meeting today, whatever it was. And so just something for them to be able to share openly and freely about their thoughts and whatnot. So I wanted to hit one more thing that I offer in my job here at the 4-H Center is I do what's called the 4-H Center Roadshow. And so throughout the school year, I take groups of, or a trailer and a truck full of camp activities to counties across the state. And I can be your speaker for your club meeting or your kickoff events, those sorts of things, just to have some fun activities and basically bring 4-H camp to your counties. If any of you are interested in that, you can email me or call the 4-H Center and we'll try to get you scheduled. I'm also adding a team building aspect to this year. So officer teams, those sorts of things, I'll come and lead some team building activities and help with that. So I don't know if there's any questions. Macy, how much time do we have?
About 5 minutes or so.
Okay, so
someone did say about sharing your PowerPoint.
Yes, I will share the PowerPoint. I have all of your emails from the registration, and I'll add a little bit more information to it. I'll leave the videos in there as well. Again, I was just finishing staff training this week, so that's why I chose to use videos and pictures and just talk through it. I just wanted to get y'all as much as I could in this short time period for you guys to get something out of it. Are there any other questions? Oh yeah, the book information. Yes, I'll send some links in the email when I send the PowerPoint as well for the Jim Kane and Michelle Cummings activity books and things. And there's also, for the Noodle games, there are 2 books that I'll share in there as well. And I just bought those on Amazon. So again, all of them are on there. Are there any other questions? Sorry, I went really fast. I just wanted to give y'all as much information as possible and just help y'all put the fun in 4-H meetings and events and all the things that you guys do out there with your kids.
Well, thank you, Cari.